What if Dak Prescott just revealed the mindset that could change everything for the Cowboys? For years, fans have debated whether Dallas is simply trying to reach the playoffs or truly build a championship contender. Now, Dak is sending a powerful message, making the postseason isn't the destination, it's only the starting point. Some believe this confidence shows a team that's finally ready to take the next step, while others want to see results before buying into the hype. But here's what makes this so intriguing. If the Cowboys' locker room genuinely shares this mentality, Dallas may be aiming much higher than anyone realizes. Are we witnessing the rise of a team that's finally ready to chase greatness? Or is the biggest test still waiting around the corner? The pressure is building in Dallas, and this time, nobody inside the organization is hiding from it. After missing the playoffs in back-to-back seasons, the expectations surrounding the Cowboys heading into 2026 are higher than ever. Fans are tired of excuses. Players are tired of hearing about what went wrong. And perhaps nobody feels that frustration more than Dak Prescott. The Cowboys quarterback recently made it clear that simply returning to the playoffs is no longer some ambitious dream for this football team. In his eyes, it's the absolute minimum requirement. And honestly, when you look at the talent Dallas has assembled this offseason, it's hard to argue with him. The Cowboys enter the new season with a revamped defense, an offense that returns most of its key pieces, and several exciting additions that could completely change the identity of this team. The message coming out of Frisco is simple: enough is enough. Dak didn't try to sugarcoat the disappointment of the last two seasons. Missing the postseason has left a bad taste throughout the entire locker room. The Cowboys have gone from being viewed as perennial contenders to a team desperately trying to get back into the playoff picture. That reality has motivated everyone inside the building. And what makes Dak's comments even more interesting is that his motivation isn't only coming from personal disappointment. He's drawing inspiration from teammates who have never even experienced playoff football. Think about that for a second. There are talented players on this roster who have spent years grinding in the NFL and still haven't stepped onto a playoff field. That fact clearly hit Prescott when he heard one of his teammates talk about never reaching the postseason. For Dak, that became personal. He essentially told his teammate that getting him to the playoffs was now part of the mission. That's leadership. That's a quarterback taking ownership of the direction of his team. And while making the playoffs is important, the real challenge begins after they get there. Because Cowboys fans know all too well that simply reaching the postseason doesn't satisfy anybody anymore. The expectation is to win. And if Dallas is going to accomplish that goal, they're going to need several new faces to make immediate impacts. One of the most fascinating storylines emerging from minicamp involves one of the Cowboys' first-round selections. While much of the attention has been focused elsewhere, one young defender is quietly putting together an impressive start to his NFL career. Sometimes being overlooked can actually be an advantage. During minicamp practices, his speed immediately stood out. Now, evaluating pass rushers during non-contact practices is always difficult. Quarterbacks can't be touched. Offensive linemen aren't fully engaging. Everything is somewhat controlled. But even within those limitations, explosiveness jumps off the field. And that's exactly what coaches have been seeing. One of the biggest questions entering the draft centered around whether this rookie could consistently utilize the elite athletic traits he displayed during testing. The raw speed was undeniable. The explosiveness was undeniable. The challenge was translating those physical gifts into consistent football production. Early indications suggest the Cowboys coaching staff is already helping unlock that potential. The work being done with pass rush specialists and defensive coaches appears to be paying dividends. His first step looks cleaner. His get-off looks quicker. And perhaps most importantly, he's showing signs of developing the confidence required to succeed at the NFL level. If this trend continues into training camp, Dallas may have found a defensive weapon capable of contributing much earlier than many expected. And speaking of young players making noise, the running back room is quietly becoming one of the most intriguing battles on the roster. Everyone knows who the lead back is expected to be. The Cowboys have a clear plan for managing his workload, and that strategy was evident throughout minicamp. Rather than overworking their veteran runner, Dallas focused heavily on evaluating younger options. That created opportunities. Opportunities for players trying to prove they belong. Opportunities for coaches to discover who can be trusted when the games actually matter. And the results have generated significant excitement. One second-year back continues to impress with his physical running style, Coaches believe he possesses many of the same traits that make the starter successful. He runs with balance. He finishes runs aggressively, and he brings a level of toughness that offensive coordinators love. But there's another young running back generating perhaps even more buzz. His skill set is different. He brings speed. He brings explosiveness. And most importantly, he brings versatility. Modern NFL offenses are increasingly built around players who can create mismatches, running backs who can catch passes, line up in different positions, and stress defenses in multiple ways have become invaluable. That's exactly why the Cowboys are so excited about his development. Imagine a backfield featuring a powerful runner capable of wearing down defenses and an explosive playmaker capable of turning a simple check down into a massive gain. That combination can completely change how defenses prepare. And according to comments coming out of minicamp, Dallas believes that possibility is very real. Of course, the running back competition isn't the only offensive storyline generating headlines. The biggest discussion continues to revolve around George Pickens. Ever since arriving in Dallas, expectations have been enormous. Cowboys fans know exactly what kind of talent Pickens possesses. His ability to make contested catches is elite. His body control is elite. His downfield playmaking ability can change games. But what if the Cowboys have only scratched the surface of what he can become? That appears to be exactly what the coaching staff believes. One of the most significant developments from minicamp involved discussions about expanding Pickens' role within the offense. Traditionally, he has spent much of his career operating in a specific area of the field. That role allowed him to be productive, very productive. But Dallas wants more. They want versatility. They want unpredictability. And they want defenses constantly guessing. The plan is to move Pickens around the formation far more than previous teams have. Sometimes he'll line up outside. Sometimes he'll work from the slot. Sometimes he'll be isolated in matchups designed specifically to exploit defensive weaknesses. The goal is simple: create chaos. Because when defenses are forced to account for both CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens moving all over the field, things become incredibly difficult. Imagine trying to determine coverage responsibilities before the snap. Imagine trying to identify where help defenders need to be positioned. That's the challenge Dallas wants opponents to face every single week. And perhaps the most encouraging aspect of this entire experiment is how quickly Pickens appears to be adapting. Learning new responsibilities isn't always easy. Receivers must understand different route concepts, different alignments, different adjustments, different reads. But according to coaches, Pickens has handled the transition exceptionally well. He's picking things up quickly. He's executing assignments. And he's showing the football intelligence necessary to maximize this expanded role. If everything comes together, the Cowboys' passing attack could become one of the most dangerous units in the NFL. Defenses already struggle dealing with CeeDee Lamb. Adding a fully unlocked version of George Pickens could take things to another level entirely. Now, while excitement continues to grow around the offense, there was naturally concern surrounding injuries coming out of minicamp. Every fan knows how quickly expectations can change if key players aren't healthy. Fortunately, the updates were mostly positive. The biggest name generating attention was Dak Prescott. Reports surfaced regarding knee soreness, immediately causing concern among fans. Whenever a franchise quarterback appears on an injury report, people panic. That's just reality. But the situation appears far less serious than many feared. The soreness was reportedly linked to fluid rather than a significant structural issue, and the coaching staff showed very little concern. In fact, Prescott participated extensively throughout minicamp activities. That alone should provide reassurance. If coaches were truly worried, they would have limited his involvement significantly. Instead, Dak looked comfortable, moved well, and appeared fully engaged throughout practices. At this point, there seems to be no major reason for concern. And that's critical because everything Dallas hopes to accomplish in 2026 ultimately starts with Prescott. No quarterback, no playoff push, no championship aspirations. It's really that simple. Elsewhere on the injury front, several important defenders continue progressing toward full health. The updates coming from coaches suggest optimism remains high. Players recovering from offseason injuries have steadily increased their workloads and are trending in the right direction. The expectation remains that they will be ready for training camp or shortly thereafter. That's huge news for a defense expected to take a significant step forward this season. Depth matters. Availability matters. And Dallas needs all hands on deck if they're going to compete with the NFC's elite teams. Another important addition has also shown encouraging signs during recovery. Limited participation at minicamp represented meaningful progress, and all indications suggest he remains on schedule. Considering how important he is expected to be for this defense, every positive update matters. The Cowboys know they've assembled a roster capable of competing. The question now becomes whether they can finally translate potential into results. Because potential alone means nothing in the NFL. Every offseason is filled with optimistic projections. Every team believes they've improved. Every locker room enters training camp believing this could be their year. The difference is proving it once the games begin. For Dallas, that journey starts with leadership. It starts with Dak Prescott setting the tone. It starts with veterans holding teammates accountable. And it starts with young players embracing opportunities to contribute. The pieces are there. A motivated quarterback. A dangerous receiving duo. Young defensive talent emerging. A versatile backfield. Improved defensive depth. And perhaps most importantly, a locker room that seems fully aware of what's at stake. Nobody is celebrating off-season victories. Nobody is acting satisfied. The focus is entirely on results. The playoffs are the minimum. That's the standard. That's the expectation. And after 2 frustrating seasons, the Cowboys are determined to make sure 2026 tells a very different story. The talent is there. The confidence is there. Now comes the hard part. Proving it. And if everything we saw during minicamp carries over into training camp and eventually the regular season, Cowboys fans may finally have a team capable of delivering on the massive expectations surrounding America's team. If you enjoyed this update, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and stay tuned for more Dallas Cowboys news, rumors, roster updates, and breaking developments throughout the offseason and